Welcome back to the Adventures of Chris and Mike. In this episode, we're going to be visiting the Historic Fort Meade Museum in Sturgis, South Dakota. Join us now as my good friend Chuck Rambo takes us on a tour of the Historic Fort Meade Museum.
Among those who were with the Custer 1874 expedition were his chief, a rigorous scout, a fellow by the name of Bloody Knife. Bloody Knife, of course, was with Reno in the Valley fight at the Little Bighorn. With Custer was his dog robber, the fellow who set up Custer's camp, a corporal by the name of Noonan, and the captain by the name of Captain Ledlow. He had been a colonel in the Civil War. I mention these three as being with Custer because there is a rather famous photograph of Custer and his grizzly bear. Custer was very proud of the fact that the only grizzly he killed was killed here in the Black Hills at the time of the Custer expedition. He had the rigorous scouts process the hide so that he could carry it with him back to Fort Abraham Lincoln, and he sent one of the glass plate pictures back to his wife Libby in the last dispatches that left here on August the 15th of 1874. In the winter of 1875, the government tried very, very hard to purchase the Black Hills from the Sioux Indians. The Sioux Indians flat out would not sell. And so the government decided they'd better round up the Indians and put them on the reservation. In the winter of 1875, the government issued the Indians who were yet in the wild an ultimatum. They must either come into their reservations by the 1st of February of 1876 or be considered hostiles. If they would be hostiles, of course, then they would be in literally a free fire zone because they could be attacked by the military at any time. Unfortunately, though several of the bands were attempting to come in, this was an extremely difficult winter in 1875 and 76 with very, very deep snow, and it was simply impossible for them to come in. And in March of 1876, the first attack of the Cheyenne began. The attack came against the band of Dull Knife, the Cheyenne band, and their village was taken by the cavalry, the 4th Cavalry in this case, and their village was captured. Two of their sacred articles, their sacred corn and their sacred tobacco, were destroyed when the village is burned. The Sioux came to their defense. The Sioux Indians drive off the soldiers, get most of the Indian horses back again, including quite a few of the government horses. And unfortunately for the Cheyenne, though, they lose much of their village. And the Cheyenne spend, at least this band, spend much of their winter with the Crazy Horse Band. In the spring of 1876, no other bands attempted to come in. And so the government formed 3 commands to come in, encircling the Indians to take them to the reservation. Unfortunately, on the various reservations, the food that is provided is of such poor quality, and there is so little of it, that the agents on the reservations are having to quadruple or increase their supposed count of Indians on the reservations. They're having to suggest that they have many more Indians on the reservation than in fact they do. And in reality, many of the Indians are forced to leave the reservations to go out to their old buffalo hunting country to try to find buffalo to simply survive. The camps that were in the frontier were growing from the winter to the spring into the early summer of 1876. The military had no way of knowing this, and so when Custer was ordered to attack the village, or at least capture the village of the Sioux and the Cheyenne, wherever they might be in the West, as it turns out, they believed them to be on the Rosebud Creek. They turn out to be, of course, on the Little Bighorn River.
Stay tuned for more episodes of The Adventures of Chris and Mike as we continue our tour with Chuck Rambo at the Historic Fort Meade Museum. And please subscribe to my channel.